Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the program. It's Friday night. We're live. We're national. 7 minutes past the hour, and thrilled to be with you today. It's really a blessing. Our phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, feel free to call, because I love doing calls, especially on Fridays, right? Because, you got some people that take their wives out to dinner and others that are in their worship services, those that observe the Sabbath on Friday nights, and that leaves many of us to get into the conversation at hand. So we're going to do that. And, of course, I think, the big story today, at least one of the big stories that I've been following, is this story about another judge being arrested. Yesterday I told you about Judge Cano, right? So I think 2 days ago or 3 days ago I told you about Judge Cano, who was from New Mexico, resigned recently, and then he was caught out there harboring an illegal alien affiliated with the Tren de Aragua terrorist organization. And now he's been arrested. I think we discussed that last night. His wife was arrested as well. Well, today we have another judge that's been arrested. But I want to refresh your memory just in case. Listen to this.
Homeland Security investigators arrested Christian Ortega Lopez for being in the United States illegally since December of 2023 and for possessing a firearm. Court documents say he and two other men were living in a casita on the property of now former magistrate judge Joel Cano. In those documents, Lopez told investigators he and the other two men did handyman jobs for Cano and his wife. The couple eventually let them live there after they were evicted from their apartment. The arrest of all three men happened in late February during a raid of Cano's property, with Homeland Security investigators claiming the men were, quote, well-known members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Social media posts from Lopez included in court documents showed Lopez holding guns, with Cano present in some of the pictures. The Judicial Standards Commission launched an investigation into Cano shortly after the arrests, citing alleged willful misconduct. While not charged criminally, Cano resigned in March, which halted any disciplinary hearings, and now he can never serve as a judge in the state again. Jason McNabb, KOAT Action 7 News.
So that was the story that we were discussing last night. Well, guess what? But wait, there's more. Now it gets better. Now a woman, a female judge from Wisconsin, has now been arrested. Check this one out.
The FBI arrested a county judge in Wisconsin today, accusing her of preventing the arrest of a man by immigration authorities. Judge Hannah Dugan was arrested on courthouse grounds this morning, where supporters later gathered calling for her release. Now, last week, ICE agents came to court with a warrant to arrest an undocumented migrant, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, who was scheduled to appear before Dugan in criminal court. The judge allegedly escorted Flores Ruiz and his attorney out of the courtroom before the agents could arrest him. The agents would later arrest the man outside the courthouse, and Judge Dugan will be back in court on May 15.
Well, look at that. And again, sometimes, we lose the forest through the trees over here. This is a judge in Wisconsin, a Wisconsin judge, who helped bust this guy out the back door when ICE came to get the detained person, right? This woman's been a judge for a long time. And I'm not saying that because she looks old in the photo. I'm saying because, she's referred to as a veteran judge. And listen to this. Mexican illegal immigrant. She's helping him evade immigration and customs enforcement agents in her courtroom. Judge Hannah Dugan. She's been on the Milwaukee County bench for nearly a decade. She's now accused of obstruction. You heard all that stuff. I just want to give you what the report didn't give you in this report here from the New York Post. Judge Dugan wholeheartedly regrets protests and her arrest. It was not made in the interest of public safety, said her attorney. That's what that guy got paid for. I'm sure she didn't really mean to say that. As it was reported, she literally made the agents go somewhere else and held them up while they could release the prisoner they were holding that was going to be turned over to ICE. Right? So this prisoner, his name is Mr. Flores Ruiz. Right? So Flores Ruiz, 30 years old. He'd been deported from the U.S. once before, back in 2013. And he was appearing before Judge Dugan on April 18th for a pretrial conference on 3 misdemeanor battery charges from a fight that he had earlier in the month, punching another person 30 times after being accused of playing music too loudly. Isn't that something? Now, listen, it's not above me, forgive me for saying this, but it's not above me to get into some stupid stuff like this over something stupid. And I try not to do that stuff. But 30 times? Man, that's a lot. Come on. I think that's excessive. That's more excessive than the music. Anyway, that was according to Milwaukee Sentinel report. Now, the complaint states that while the team assigned to arrest Mr. Flores Ruiz, which included FBI and DEA agents, waited for the hearing to conclude, they were photographed by a public defender who informed Dugan's clerk that the three law enforcement agents appeared to be from ICE and were standing in the hallway. After speaking with the clerk, Dugan became visibly angry and left the bench to confront the federal agents, according to an affidavit by the FBI. Witnesses uniformly reported that Judge Dugan was visibly upset and had a confrontational, angry demeanor. After initially demanding that the officers leave the building if they were not there for a court appearance, Dugan allegedly directed the federal agents away from her courtroom to Chief Judge Carl Ashley's office after being shown the immigration warrant for Flores Ruiz. So again, they show up and they say, "Hello, I'm here to arrest so-and-so." And she says, "Oh, yeah? You got a warrant, bucko?" And they go, "Sure do. Got it right here. Take a look, ma'am. Look at that." And then she says, "Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're going to have to go to the office of the chief judge." And while they're going to the office of the chief judge, getting the runaround, she's like, "All right, quick, guys, let him out the back door." If she gets arrested, she shouldn't be the only one that gets arrested. Somebody helped her. And they're all going to say, "I was just doing my job. The judge told me to do it." I think more than one person here knew that this was wrong. Anyway, after Dugan had gone back inside, the complaint states, a deputy that was assigned to her courtroom told a member of the federal team that he had not alerted Dugan to their presence and added that the judge was pushing Flores Ruiz's case through. One of the good guys here. After Flores Ruiz's appearance was completed, actually not one of the good guys, it appears, let's see, let's read on. I don't know if this is somebody that's helping them out or adding more smoke to the smoke bomb, the little smoke screen that the judge was throwing their way. After Flores Ruiz appears to complete the hearing, and he's watching from the jury box, the affidavit states, the deputy heard Dugan say something like, "Wait, come with me," before escorting Flores Ruiz and his attorney out of the courtroom's jury door to a non-public area of the courthouse where the chief judge had advised the feds that they could not arrest Flores Ruiz. These events were also unusual for two reasons, according to the FBI's complaint. First, the courtroom deputy had previously heard Judge Dugan direct people not to sit in the jury box because it was exclusively for jury use. Second, according to the courtroom deputy, only deputies, juries, court staff, and in-custody defendants being escorted by deputies use the back jury door. Defense attorneys and defendants who were not in custody never use the jury door. Later, a prosecuting attorney asked about the status of Mr. Flores Ruiz's battery case, was told it had been quietly adjourned. Dun, 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 dun. Now, this happened without the prosecutor's knowledge or participation, even though they were present in court to handle the Flores-Ruiz case on behalf of the state. And even though these victims were present in the courtroom, the complaint read, Flores-Ruiz and his attorney made it out of the courthouse before the suspect was arrested by FBI and DEA agents following a brief foot chase. Check that out. While they're getting the runaround from the judge, they had to track this guy down, run down the block, and catch up to him in order to arrest him. The complaint from the FBI continues. We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest. FBI Director Kash Patel said that on Twitter, also known as X, earlier this morning. Ain't that something? Anyway, he continued, thankfully, our agents chased down the perp on foot, and he's been in custody since. But the judge's obstruction created increased danger to the public. Patel later deleted the X post announcing Dugan's arrest for reasons that were not immediately clear. Attorney General Pam Bondi later confirmed Dugan's arrest, and here's what she had to say.
This was truly horrific. This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, beat the guy, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, you know, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave, while a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
That, again, Attorney General Pam Bondi. So, wow is all I could say. I've spent the entire week talking about how prominent members of the Democrat Party in the United States Senate, in the United States Congress, and now those on the federal bench and the county bench are also aiding and abetting these illegal aliens. And again, they're not just being deported for being illegal aliens. That's not the whole thing. This guy beat this guy, punching him 30 times in the head. The other one had a trafficking charge. This is pretty serious stuff. Why are those that are aligned with the Democrat Party, or at least anti-Trump, and I'm going to dare say anti-America, why are they supporting illegal criminals? Illegal alien criminals, criminal aliens. I can't figure this one out. But I'm hoping that you all that are out there that support criminal illegal aliens will call in and school me and set me straight. And the rest of you, amigos, you'll call in and let me know why you think this is crazy. Anyway, we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Klaus Schwab resigned from his role as chairman and board member of the World Economic Forum. Schwab didn't just leave a legacy, he left a closet full of robes that scream, Sith Lord with a Swiss bank account. The WEF is known for its annual meetings in Davos, Switzerland, where global elites fly in their private jets to discuss your carbon footprint. It's basically Burning Man for billionaires, but with less nudity. The WEF is now accepting applications for a new chairman. Required qualifications are an economics degree, leadership experience, and the ability to dress like you're auditioning for a dystopian sci-fi movie.
So This is both funny and not funny at the same time, right? Klaus Schwab announces his immediate retirement earlier this week. It was Monday or so, the same day as we learned about the Pope passing away. And then the next thing you know, while everybody's doing backflips on both of those stories, then you hear more saying, oh, he probably left because they were thinking of investigating the guy because of, potential malfeasance. And it opens up all sorts of doors for lots of different questions. And that's why I want to talk to Sameera Khan. She's a journalist and with an emphasis on foreign policy analysis, and she's with us right now. Sameera Khan, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You bet. And I want to get your thoughts on this because I find it interesting. I really, just to give you a little background on me, I don't care about Klaus Schwab. I feel like he's a funny Dr. Evil type of guy that people that don't think a lot take seriously, and people that think a lot kind of laugh at, and occasionally go, oh, maybe, he might. I always knew this guy would crash and burn, kind of like he is. I think the World Economic Forum is probably something a little bit that we should take a little more seriously, but it's more of a European thing. I don't think it's ever really had its hooks into the United States, but that doesn't mean it won't one day. So perhaps I'm just writing it off. But they don't scare me is what I'm saying, and maybe that's naive of me to say. But all that being said, what is the deal here with Klaus Schwab?
Well, it's really interesting because I agree with what you're saying, that Klaus Schwab was a sort of figurehead for globalism, and he became that way, that sort of face of globalism during COVID with all of the draconian policies that he was pushing on sovereign countries, et cetera, et cetera. But you made a very important point about the WEF itself. Right now, it doesn't really have the ability to extend its tentacles to the United States, but it could in the future. And Klaus Schwab is just the face. And right now, the face is being kicked to the side because they want to preserve the integrity, essentially, of the institution of the WEF. So it doesn't matter who's in power. The WEF agenda will be the same. It will be just as globalist without Klaus Schwab in power.
And that was exactly what I thought. I thought to myself,
exactly.
if you get rid of Soros, you get rid of Klaus Schwab, there's no party to be thrown because the bad guys who fund this stuff, many of them we don't even know, they're still there. And some of them we do know, 100%. Right? I mean, Larry Fink is on their board. He's a very powerful dude.
Yeah, and it's just going to continue. But I think that they're just throwing conservatives around the world a bone, essentially, and getting rid of Klaus Schwab. Because like I said, he was the face of Great Reset and COVID and all of these policies that were imposed. But I think it depends. It depends for sure.
Well, folks, let me just remind everybody, we're on with Sameera Khan. She's a journalist and foreign policy analyst. And what I find, again, just so interesting about this is that they'll make these allegations. And something that I've learned in observing politics, doesn't matter if it's national, international, or local, sometimes you get bad guys, and when their bad guy friends are done with them, they throw them to the wolves. And it doesn't mean that they're guilty of whatever they're being accused of. It just means that they're done. And I think most recent examples we see, and I'm not professing his innocence. I'm thinking he's guilty as sin. Bob Menendez, right? Gold Bar Bob. Gold Bar Bob is probably guilty of a lot of things, but he got in trouble this time. And we see it often again. Eric Adams. There's a lot of people, very selective prosecution. So I'm wondering, is this one of those things? Well, stick with us, folks. We're coming right back with Sameera Khan, and we're going to find out who's the new Klaus Schwab. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Klaus Schwab is out. This guy's in. Meet Peter Brabeck-Lamath, former CEO of Nestle, blame it on the bunny, who famously stated in 2017, humans have no right to access free water. Yeah! Water isn't a right. Water is a privilege. Who do you think you are? Going around drinking water, breathing air. If they could tax air, they'd do it. You gotta recognize that so much advocacy for measures around climate change and ecological disaster are ways of leveraging further control. Of course, they don't care about the bloody planet, they care about control. So crazy that all of these crises allow elites to thrive and flourish economically, and also mean that normal people have to shut their mouths and get in their houses. COVID, get in your house, shut your mouth. Water, get in your house, shut your mouth. Climate change, get in your house, shut your mouth. I'm starting to see a pattern emerging.
Okay, that is Russell Brand, if you couldn't make out the pretty cool accent. Russell Brand, the actor, comedian, and now podcaster. He's terrific, by the way. I met him at the inauguration, and what a cool dude. Hung out with him for a brief little bit. And is funnier in real life than I think he is on the big screen. Anyway, Russell Brand calling out the new successor to Klaus Schwab, Peter Brabeck-Letmathe, right? I have to say it like he does because it sounds better that way. And he used to be the CEO of Nestle. And he's another one of these, globalist type crazies, I'm going to say, if it's true that he was saying we shouldn't have access to free water. I want to get some input on this from our guest, the esteemed Sameera Khan, journalist. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Peter Brabeck, he's vice chairman of the WEF Board of Trustees. He's very close to Schwab, by the way, part of the same exact inner circle, just as globalist, just as technocratic as his predecessor. So I don't think things will fundamentally change, and I think that this confirms your earlier assessment that this is another case of scapegoating.
Right. Yeah, totally scapegoating. You
right.
Try to clean up a little bit, throw this under the rug over here, and keep it moving. And for years, people have criticized those on Wall Street, saying it was a golden parachute. I think this is the new version of a golden parachute. They're like, all right, go ahead, just rape and pillage the organization. You'll quit in disgrace, but whatever. You're almost 90. You go buy yourself an island, and I'll clean up the mess. It seems like the same type of MO. People with power do whatever they feel like.
Yeah, exactly. This seems like it's just a survival mechanism to get a WEF makeover, so to speak. So they'll scapegoat Klaus Schwab and replace him.
Now, I wonder, and this is where I think, your intrepid understanding of this really comes in handy, because I could care less about these guys, as I've said, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. It's more like kind of caveat. I'm very naive to a lot of these things. But do you think they said, all right, look, Klaus, it's been a good 55 years, but pal, A, we still can't understand you. The accent's too thick. And B, I think you just didn't do a good enough job globalizing the world. We still didn't take over this and take over that, and it's time to give somebody else a shot. What do you think really happened here?
Yeah, I think that's close to probably what happened, if not exactly what happened. I think that he wasn't globalist enough for them, and they want somebody who can do it without all of the scandals, all of the controversies with the terrible name that he's made of himself. So now they're getting a makeover, and then they're also getting a makeover of their agenda.
Now, Sameera Khan, you know who I would be afraid of? And I mean this seriously. He has a little henchman named Dr. Yuval Noah Harari. And I think this guy's certifiably insane and very smart at the same time. That's somebody that scares me. I've heard him talk about God and how we'll replace God in the future with AI. He's so eloquent in his explanation, but I think he's certifiably nuts. Any rumors about him moving up, or do you think he goes into the sunset with Schwab? Because he's a lot younger.
Yeah, I think he's in that subset, but they probably want someone just as senior as Klaus Schwab, just as respected, at least by globalist standards. But we'll have to see what happens and who they name as a successor. It's very possible that these guys will also be in the decision-making circle as well.
Now, Sameera Khan, when you're not keeping your finger on the pulse of what the globalists at the WEF are doing, what type of things are you covering?
Well, I cover mostly foreign policy and international relations, but I also do cover domestic politics. So I have my hands everywhere, but I definitely enjoy it. It's my passion for sure.
So on the international front, I'll just pick your brain a little bit because
Sure.
it seems like President Trump is trying to, in earnest, broker a peace deal with Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. And I would say both of them seem to be rather unwilling for whatever their motivation is. I don't know if it's a genuine unwillingness or they don't want to look too willing. So every time they have a chance to get together at a table, let me bomb you. No, let me bomb you. Oh, let me do a car bomb. I mean, there's so many things. There was a car bomb today while the Witkoff or whoever the envoy was meeting with Putin's people. Then he hits the people in Kiev. I feel like it doesn't seem like they're getting closer to peace. It seems like they're ratcheting up the violence.
Yes, and it also could be rhetorical posturing from both sides to get a better deal. This is what usually happens. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes aside from what we're getting in news reports and so on and so forth. But yeah, I do think Trump is earnest in wanting to get a peace deal. Putin and Zelensky also, but they want the best peace deal for their respective sides, of course. And then, you have the same thing going on with Iran at the moment, a nuclear deal. But I think a lot of this is rhetorical posturing. I think
you think Iran doesn't want to destroy us?
I think that Iran wants desperately to get sanctions lifted, and they will agree to whatever is asked of them, essentially.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and right now, what's being talked about is uranium enrichment and transferring uranium to Russia. So, according to reports, we don't know, of course, what the exact terms are. But yeah, that's kind of sums it up.
Can't Russia already enrich their own uranium?
Yes, they can, but this is a way that Iran is able to transfer their uranium and then get the benefits of the deal, sanctions relief, and so on and so forth. So it's being worked out. We'll see.
Right. So the play, just to follow the chessboard a little bit. So the play is, hey, look, we hate the United States. They're taking all of our money. We can't stand those guys. Death to America, death to Israel. Let's hook up with Putin because he'll play ball with us, and that'll give us the appearance of more strength so that we can have more leverage in our negotiations. But
Exactly.
I think there's a premise.
And get this.
Go ahead.
Get this. Trump actually asked Putin to help him negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran back in February, and it's been happening ever since. They've been doing it indirectly ever since. And yes, Putin is involved in facilitating negotiations between Trump and the Iranian government.
Well, I mean, that makes sense to me. If they have the ear of the Iranians and the Iranians are like, hey, look, can you enrich our uranium? Because we want a nuke because we hate the Jews and we hate the United States. And you're our only ticket in town. And Putin says, well, you know what? The United States hate you and you hate them and you'll do just about anything. Then, yeah, you seem like a good Machiavellian ally for me to have. So I see the nature of the alliance there, and it's been around forever, but it's renewed now. And I see Trump being smart, shrewd here, saying, all right, look, if they got your ear, you need to make a deal with me, right? I think we're all trying to avoid an actual direct war. And
yes,
we're running out of options, and it seems to be like we're headed in that direction. Maybe that's just me being doom and gloom. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I also have to remind the audience that Putin has good relations with Israel. This is something Trump and Putin have in common. So all three parties, Israel, the U.S., and Russia, have a shared interest in preventing Iran from nuclearizing.
Okay. So perhaps, and I've heard this argument, I just never believed it because, being an American, I've never seen anybody open a session of government like when they open their parliament and they shout death to America. And it just, I could see how they could hate America if they're upset with sanctions. But I've never heard I've never heard, Ayatollah or anybody else ever really make the claim that, hey, if you give us back our money, we'll ease up. And I think Obama did that and, kind of eased up the sanctions. And then the next thing you know, they were like, we're fast tracking the uranium production. So I don't know if they can be trusted.
Yeah, I mean, it's a genuine concern, but there are different how do I say this, power factions in Iran.
Sure.
And it seems like every single faction that has power in Iran, they want a nuclear deal desperately. It's about survival for them at this point.
Right, because they're not Russia.
Yeah, exactly.
Russia has
they're very
leverage. We can
they
take
don't
out
have
Iran.
leverage.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I get that.
Israel
that makes a lot
could
of
take out
sense.
Iran.
Well, that would be the way it would go, I'm sure. Very, very good conversation. Okay, great. Well, Sameera Khan, it was a pleasure chatting with you. I want you to tell everybody how they can keep up to speed with all the work that you're doing and how they could follow you online.
Sure. I mean, you can follow me on Twitter at Sameera Khan, SameeraKhan. And that's the best way to keep up. But thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation.
My pleasure. Hope to do it again soon. God bless.
Thank you so much.
And amigos, we come back with your calls, your thoughts, your reactions, and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America, and you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company here on the late shift with you for the next couple of hours. And I want to go to the phones, 833-4-VALDEZ. I want to go to Susan. She is calling us from Corning, New York on The Beacon, WGHQ. Go right ahead, Susan.
Oh, my goodness. Rich, I always love getting you,
Thank you.
on the air, and I love that your topic on the globalists, and you were talking about Schwab there, the World
Is he one of your
Economic
favorites?
Forum. Pardon me?
I said, is he one of your favorites, Klaus Schwab?
Whoa, what a jerk. What a jerk. But, no, but still, as you said, maybe now they're just put on hold. But what I have always been looking at for the last 4 years is the World Health Organization, because under Biden, his Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra, was palling up with Tedros Ghebreyesus, the toady for China, that's the head of the World Health Organization.
Mm-hmm.
China has all of our data, those balloons that went over, and holds some of the things that they were proposing and still are. Even though Trump, thank God, got us out of it, we need to be out of that organization permanently through legislation, because they were ready to just like throw the American at all. They were ready to sign off.
Oh, yeah.
Give us to be under the control of that
Well,
organization.
Susan,
and they're not about health, Rich.
No, I know that. And they're about control. It's about controlling how we do things and really kind of like the usurpation of our sovereignty. But what I think happened here, and not just the World Health Organization, but USAID and other organizations, both that are in our government and those that we fund, like UNRWA and others, they've been gutted, in effect, because the United States government is not sending them any more money. And what will happen to the World Health Organization and their quest to take over the world if one of their biggest donors, the United States, isn't there to foot the bill? So, Susan, I would not be. I agree with you that we should, codify it and get it in writing and all of that, and that's great. But at the end of the day, I think it's a huge victory for the United States because of the advent of the 2024 election, the victory of Donald Trump. We've kind of been spared the craziness that was to come from engaging in a pandemic treaty, if you will. So thankfully, I think we dodged a bullet there. But you're right. We have to not only defund, but probably rescind and get out of that as well. Susan from Brooklyn, who's now in Corning, New York. Thank you so much for the call, Susan. And a big shout out to everybody listening out in the Hudson Valley as well. Everybody in Kingston and Beacon and on 920, 92.5, 96.5, 1420, 94.3. We're on all of those amazing stations there. Magic 92.5, the Beacon, the station in Kingston. Great to be on with everybody. Shout out there. Great program director up there, by the way, as well. Shout out to everybody there and the team. And I'm going to take a pause right here. We're going to come right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Care and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez. And the funeral for the Pope was today. And we're talking about Klaus Schwab as well and a bunch of other things. Got a lot of other topics we're going to get to this evening. So you got to keep it locked right here. I know in some parts of the country, this might be the last hour you hear me. In other places, it's the first hour. I don't know how they do it sometimes, but they do it. And we are live. I'm sitting at the microphone right now. Trust me. So whatever the case, make sure you keep it locked and you continue the conversation with us. But I want to go to the phones. We go to our buddy Paul from Boise, Idaho, the great KBOI. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, Rich, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I'm not really sure about Schwab. I think I know more about Charles Schwab than
Klaus Schwab. Yeah, he's a clown. And he wears funny clothes.
Yeah, I had a pretty good day today. How about you, Rich? I enjoy your show at night.
Oh, thank you.
You're kind of a mystery. You're kind of a mystery to us out here. We don't know what you do during the day.
I'll tell you what I do during the day. I am, well, one, it takes me forever to fall asleep. So I wake up around 9 a.m. Eastern time. And then I, check the news, make my calls, do my, sometimes the calls are video calls, sometimes they're regular calls, network people, whatever it is. Back and forth with the producers. And then I go to the gym. I go to the gym, and that's, I'm only in the gym for like 30 or maybe 45 minutes most. But getting there back and forth, the associated post-workout meal and all that stuff, that's like a 2-hour event. And then that brings me into the afternoon. And then I have, some other things. I have some interests, like business interests. So I have to, tend to those things. And it's kind of how I do my thing until it's time to go. Now, most recently, my daughter, my oldest daughter, she finished college in December and she's graduating in I don't know, 10 days or so from Liberty University. And I'm thrilled about that. But we've been, just doing some things around the house to make sure we're ready to receive her when she's home and when she comes to visit, because she's going to be relocating to Florida. So lots of moving parts on my end, Paul. But thank you for asking, brother. I hope you're doing well. God bless you. Praying for you, for your health and everything else. Keep in there. Keep hanging in. You're the man, brother. And amigos, we continue the conversation. We've got a lot more to come straight ahead. Some discussion on what is going on in the world with me, Rich Valdez. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to another hour of the program. It's 7 minutes past the hour, and we're live and national. Give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I want to get into a bunch of stuff tonight. We've talked about the globalism of Klaus Schwab and how that his globalism is coming to an end, but it doesn't mean the WEF is going anywhere. They're going to continue with their globalist mumbo jumbo. But I'm more concerned with the enemy within. Abraham Lincoln famously said that if America were to fall, it would fall from within. And I don't think we're falling, but I think we are exposing so much. It's kind of like, doing a little kitchen project in my house, and you start removing some stuff to put in new stuff, and you go, got to replace that too. Got to replace that too, right? Because you realize there's some wear and tear on things that they get older and they need to be replaced. And sometimes it's not older, sometimes they're just corrupted. And that's the case with many politicians in Washington. And they're not just politicians. Sometimes these politicians don a black robe. Like the judge the other night, Cano or Cano, like Robinson Cano, but his name was Joel Cano, I believe, and a magistrate judge in New Mexico. And now there's a new judge, right? You've got the feds arresting this new judge. Her name, bear with me, I just had it in front of me. Well, somebody's got to know it. Shout it out if you know her name. And her name, I can't even find her name. I'm looking at the whole thing right in front of me. This is what being prepared in live radio is all about. Judge Dugan. And Judge Dugan was arrested for slowing down and causing a diversion of the ICE people. And apparently they weren't even ICE people. They were FBI and DEA there to pick up this guy, Mr. Flores Ruiz. And she says, oh, yeah, hang on. And one of the guards alerted her, and the judge does this whole song and dance where she's alerted that there's ICE agents there, and she says, oh, okay, let me go out and talk to them. She says, all right, let me see your warrant. And they produce the warrant, and then she says, all right, you're going to have to go to the office of the chief judge. And while they're going to the office of the chief judge, she tells the guy who's in her courtroom, they're right outside the courtroom waiting for her to finish her hearing so they could take him into custody. And she decides, I'm going to walk him out the jury exit, him and his attorney, so that they can be free. And once the cops figure out they're being led on a wild goose hunt, they have to run after the guy. They catch him outside. A foot chase ensues. They catch the guy, and then eventually caught up with the judge, and she was erected. I feel like Schumer. She was arrested on charges of obstruction. And that's funny. That's funny. So you got two judges in just the same week here that are locked up. The judge and his wife for harboring a terrorist, Tren de Aragua gangster in his house. Then I guess the daughter took a fancy to him, and she had some guns in the house and was letting the guy pose with the guns. And then the judge is posing with the guy with the guns. And again, I've posed with guns before. My children have posed with guns. We go. My family has a farm. We go. We shoot the guns. It's very fun. But we're doing it with people that are not criminals. Now, I guess if, someone in my family becomes a criminal down the road, then I guess you can make the same criticism of me. But here, this judge knows full well who this guy was and knows he was hiding this guy. So it's not the same. And this is the point. You've got Democrats in the media. You've got Democrats in education. You've got Democrats in the judiciary doing everything they can to protect illegal aliens, to make sure that you, the public, think that somehow they are us. And that when I make a statement like the one I just made, that I am othering. that I am trying to dehumanize them. I'm trying to use Hitlerian tactics to make you think that they're worth less than you and me. And that's not the case at all. I got nothing but love for immigrants. I really do. I'm surrounded by them, both by where I live and in my personal life. I know so many people that are born in another country and have chosen to make America their home. My issue is not with immigrants. My issue is with criminals. And principally the criminals that were born here, the criminals that are in the media, the criminals that are on the bench, like these judges, like Judge Dugan and Judge Cano. They're my issue. The fact that we have senators like Van Hollen, Congress people that are saying, I'm not leaving El Salvador until this man's free. Stay there, lady. What do you want me to tell you? I mean, I think the whole thing is laughable. The whole thing is crazy. And maybe I'll eat these words later. Maybe one day somebody's going to call here. Maybe it'll be Jerome, right, in South Carolina. He's going to call and say, ha, ha, ha. You made fun of the Democrats for sticking up for the criminal illegal aliens, and now we won the House, and now we won the White House. I mean, maybe he will. Maybe that's their winning ticket. But I don't believe that's a winning ticket at all. I think that's a recipe for disaster. Democrats defending criminal illegal aliens, whether it's Democrat judges, whether it's Democrats in the media, whether it's Democrats in Congress, Democrats in the Senate, Democrats at ICE, it doesn't matter where they are. Democrats that are defending criminal illegal aliens must stop. It's not going to help you. You're going to lose. Trust me. Anyway, we're going to talk about a whole lot more on that front. And not just that front, but, I mean, there's more, right? You've got the whole idea that the Democrats within the government, and when I say Democrats, I don't mean every run-of-the-mill Democrat voter. Shoot, some of these people are Republicans, right? You've got Republicans that are inside the government that may not like an aspect of Trump's policy or may not like any aspect of Trump. And because they're like, I was a Republican my whole life until Trump. All right, sorry. Stick with, the Karl Rove wing. I supported President Bush when he was around. I didn't hate the guy. I wish that he would have spent less. I wish there would have been a little bit less war. But I'm pretty hawkish. I'm not a pacifist like many. And I'm not. That's not a critique on the pacifists. That's just saying I'm not one. But my point is the country club Republicans had their run. And all they did was spend, right? And the time has come, and the Tea Party came, and there was a rebirth of conservatism, and people said, you know what, we don't want to spend anymore. And you've got some crusaders that are out there, and good for them, that are bringing attention to the bloated federal government. And now it's a thing. Now we have Doge. This is where we need to be. This is where we need to stay. This is the only way this works. It's the only way it works. So we're going to talk about why people keep leaking inside the federal government, whether it's the ones that they caught in the Pentagon, the ones that are doing it to Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, and so much more. All I can tell you is that people in the Trump administration are trying to do a massive lift. It's not an easy task. And the last thing they need is friendly fire. The last thing they need is people that they're relying on, that they're counting on to do their job and to do it well, to be the same people that are leaking, whether it be incompetently, unwittingly, or to be saboteurs. We don't need it, and you're going to get caught. Keep it locked right here. We're coming right back with Maureen Steele. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has made 2 criminal referrals to the Justice Department against alleged leakers within the intelligence community. This includes individuals who allegedly gave classified information to the Washington Post and New York Times. Additionally, there's a third alleged leaker who supposedly gave classified information to the Washington Post, and a criminal referral against them is on its way, according to Tulsi Gabbard. Now, Gabbard did not reveal too many specifics about the cases against these individuals, but she did suggest that the classified information appeared to have been leaked for partisan political purposes to undermine President Trump's agenda. She did not elaborate beyond that. Now, because we don't know too much of the specifics here, it's not entirely clear how these individuals might be charged, but we do know that charges against individuals for leaking classified information can entail up to 10 years behind bars, so these individuals could face pretty significant jail time if convicted. Now, in making a criminal referral to the DOJ, Gabbard is asking the Justice Department to review whether or not these individuals should be terminated from their roles within the intelligence community and to determine whether or not to prosecute them. This comes against the backdrop of the Trump administration cracking down on leaks across the government, including in the Pentagon and within the Department of Homeland Security. And top administration officials in some of these agencies and departments have reportedly mused about using polygraph tests to determine whether or not key individuals have been leaking information to the press.
That is Ryan King from the New York Post. And this is what they're contending with in Washington, right? It's a thing. And I think some people give up because there's so much leaking going on. It's a form of currency in D.C. But I want to get a little bit of a conversation on this going. I want to do it with Maureen Steele. She's co-founder of the American Made Action Foundation, and she's with us now. Maureen Steele, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Good evening.
You bet. Your thoughts on this Tulsi Gabbard and the charges related to the leaking of the classified information?
Well, I think, I had said this earlier in an interview. I was asked the same question. I think the American people are greatly relieved to finally see arrests being made or charges being even considered being charged. President Trump's his presidency has been undermined consistently by rogue judges and now leakers. So, the American people voted for Trump's agenda. And not only are they undermining a duly elected president, they're undermining the will of the American people. And the people are above the Constitution. People don't realize that, but it's true. And we need to have President Trump's agenda being moved through and not thwarted.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Again, amigos, we're on with Maureen Steele, and we're talking about the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, referring individuals in her outfit, in her shop, intel officials, to the Department of Justice for prosecution over alleged leaks of classified information. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, these officials have warned that intelligence community professionals, everybody should be on notice right now, right? They've all been warned that leaking will not be allowed. And this is, I agree with you, Maureen Steele, that this is refreshing for those that say, wow, the rule of law is finally back. Some people are finally being held accountable. I tend to be a little bit jaded and a little bit negative and think, I don't think it matters how many people you lock up. People are always going to leak. But it's kind of like saying, what are you not going to do? Lock up the arsonists? You got to lock up every arsonist you find. People are still going to start fires. But the more of them you lock up, the less of them that likely want to get into the business of leaking. That's what I think.
Oh, absolutely. There has to be consequences for actions. And unfortunately, over the last 10 years, I mean, people have been getting away, the left and the elites, they've been lawless. They've been running roughshod all over the Constitution. It's nothing but a speed bump in their road to tyranny. The American people see it. They're tired of it. They don't want it. We just held an event in in Boston yesterday, and the temperature of the American people when you're on the street, they want arrests. People have absolutely had it. I think they expected when President Trump came into office, given his first term and all that went on there, that when they get in, that arrests would be, forthcoming immediately. And people are angry. Bannon and Glenn Beck were talking about it on a show the other night. Of just their viewers are just steamed. I mean, the American people are spitting nails. They've had it. They have absolutely had it with the Constitution being trampled and lawlessness. Our borders are open. There was leaking in President Trump's first administration. It has to stop. And to your end, we have to have punishment for it. I happened to read an article today, and it relates to this, in the sense that they've dumbed down school so much, and giving kids all the same grades, and that the children that are gifted, that you get an assignment to do a poster, and kids will just do it in pencil with nothing, and then there's children that put in all this effort and do drawings and have construction paper, and it's 3D. And these kids have stopped doing it because they see that it doesn't matter if you put in the extra work. You're going to get the same grade as the kid who did nothing, who put in barely any effort. And it's that same theory. I mean, there's you get rewarded for a good grade, because you put in the extra work, and you get a bad grade for doing nothing. Well, you do something wrong, you get punished. There's actions have consequences, and you just simply can't have lawlessness. And that's how we've been living. And people we're accepting it for so long. And now I think people are at a point they've just absolutely had it.
Well, Tulsi Gabbard spoke out on that today. Listen to this.
One of the reasons why the American people voted resoundingly for President Trump was to root out the kind of politicization and weaponization of intelligence that has really undermined the trust the American people have in the intelligence community and the national security state, but really what also directly undermines our own national security. So I made it very clear to the U.S. Senate, to the American people when I had the honor of being appointed to this position, that we will not allow this to continue. We take this very seriously. It is illegal to leak classified information. And so what you're seeing here is me carrying out on the promise and the mandate the American people gave Trump. We conducted our own internal investigation. We have referred them now to the Department of Justice and the FBI for an official criminal investigation, because these are crimes and people need to be held accountable to put a stop to this.
So, Maureen Steele, I think the message from Tulsi Gabbard is clear. People have to be held accountable. We can't continue to allow bad behavior. Hopefully the message has been sent. I don't know that Washington will receive it, but I think it's kind of like showering. You take a shower today, you're clean for a few hours. You're going to sweat, you're going to get dirty, you need to do it again tomorrow. It's about consistency. And that's why we have people like you out there, banging the pots and pans, letting people know what's going on. So let everybody know how they can learn more about the American-made action movement and how they could learn more.
Sure. You can go to our website. It's www.americanmadeaction.org. We have two organizations, actually. There's the American Made Action side. It is a 501c4. And then there's American Made Foundation. It's a 501c3. So one is an education arm. The other one is an action arm.
For politics and whatnot. Maureen Steele, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Godspeed to you and have a great weekend. Amigos, we continue straight ahead with your calls, your thoughts, your opinions, and reactions. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
The Democratic Party in Florida is dead. Well, that's according to Senate Minority Leader Jason Pizzo. He says he's leaving the party and is changing his registration to no party affiliation. Well, Pizzo called modern partisanship, quote, a mess, and said constituents are craving practical leaders, not political hacks. Pizzo is on a short list of rumored gubernatorial candidates for 2026. A string of Florida lawmakers have left the Democratic Party in recent months.
So the Republicans in Florida are saying the Democrat Party is dead. I think that they're definitely weakened. Are they dead? There's always going to be an opposition party, but they've definitely lost a ton of steam. And I want to get some reaction to that from Tom calling us from Florida, streaming the show, WTTB. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you.
I love the way you're carrying on Mark Levin's work.
Well, I'm not carrying on Levin's work. He's still doing his show.
Yeah, I know. I listen to it, too. I just have to wait a while before this one comes on.
Yeah. And your thoughts?
Hey, I just wanted to point out the amount of damage that some of our bulldog politicians from Florida are going to do, because we will end up with Trump-appointed judges, and I'm sure he'll rely on people like Larry Arnn and Ted Cruz to make his picks, and we're going to have such a strong bench because
Yeah, I think I got what you're saying. We're going to have solid judges. I mean, that's the goal, right? We want to have solid judges. We want to have solid bureaucracies in as much as we're going to have them. Small, but solid, right? And that's what Doge is doing, and making sure that the executive branch is doing the right thing. I think you have that type of leadership in Florida right now, where with DeSantis trying to do the right thing by the state. And as that stuff continues to evolve, I think we're going to see more efficient government, smaller government that's giving more power to the people, because the power should be with the people, right? The government should merely be an instrumentality of the people, for the people, by the people, not this self-aggrandizing institution that it's become, where it has more money than the people, and it takes the money from the people. It really is such a bad situation that we've landed ourselves in. But I think we're digging ourselves out at record speed, and all involved are to be commended. Tom, thank you for your call and for your kind words. I appreciate it, sir. God bless you. Let us continue. Where do I want to go? I want to go to Tony, Montreal, Canada, listening on WVMT out of Vermont. Go right ahead, Tony.
How you doing, Rich?
Yes, sir. Doing well, thank God.
I just want to make a point. You were talking about Doge. You're talking about the cleaning up of government, federal government. But what I'm saying is that the Democratic Party, it's not the deep state, Rich. Call it the Democratic deep state. The deep state is the Democratic entrenched party that is blocking the administration. And I'm going to tell you this. In 1776 to 1963, there were 0 national injunctions in the United States. And it's not a constitutional right either. From the Obama administration twice, 2 terms of Bush and 1 term of Biden, there were, I believe, 32 national injunctions. In 2 months, just 2 months, there's 37 national injunctions against the Trump administration. So you have cash criminality and corruption that's entrenched in what is the Democratic deep state. And if the Trump administration listens to your show, then you should be telling the Trump administration and the people that are supporting Trump and whoever's in the Republican Party, wake up. You won the election, but they don't believe they lost the election. So they're going to block your agenda. They're going to use lawfare. They're going to use the corruption that they're used to, and they will defeat you in courts, and they will find and go forum shopping to find those type of judges that are in Arizona that are housing these illegal criminals, etc. So you actually have a divide, Rich, in the United States. It's a 50-50 divide, black and white.
You know, and Tony, what's interesting about this is that exactly what you're talking about. I think they heard you loud and clear. This week, we've seen 2 judges be arrested. This isn't something that you typically see, right? And these rogue judges, last week, the story with the judges was they're stepping out of line, the Supreme Court weighing in, saying, look, if you get the guy back, you got to give him his hearing and give him whatever due process was left. But at the same time, conceding the point that they were well within their rights, the administration, to go ahead and utilize the Alien Enemies Act. This is the Supreme Court in a 9-0 decision. And again, reiterating the other side of that coin, saying, and again, if you get the guy back, you got to make it your business to do the right thing. Pay for the flight, do what you got to do, and get the guy back. But not saying go get the guy back if you get the guy back, right? Because obviously we have no jurisdiction to get the guy back. So then President Trump meets with the president, frog in the throat. President Trump meets with the president of El Salvador, and he says, what do you think, I'm going to steal this guy and I'm going to kidnap him and smuggle him into the United States? Which is a rhetorical act of beauty there. It was just a great conversation and putting the media on full display. So all of that to say, that was last week. Now this week, we've got judges getting arrested. I think this is breakneck speed of how we're seeing things get corrected and seeing things done. And I haven't seen it before. I know that people, like our previous guest just mentioned, have an appetite for a lot more. But we don't serve at the pleasure of the people, right? And when I say we, I mean, the FBI, the Department of Justice. Ultimately, they have a job, and the job is to enforce the law. And I follow Dan Bongino, who's deputy director of the FBI. He's doing a bang-up job there, and Kash Patel. And they constantly remind us, we the people, that just because we don't see people getting locked up every day doesn't mean that they're not putting in the work. And I think a big part of this is kind of like simple policing, right? Tony, if my neighborhood gets robbed, I might in my moment of feeling frustrated, tell the cop that comes to my house, listen, you guys better get out there and catch these guys, because I don't want to get robbed again. I don't want my neighbors getting robbed. I don't want to live like this. And that's accurate and fair. However, if the cops in turn put more cops on the street, figure out where the vulnerabilities were, and kind of, ensure that this is going to happen way less frequently, if at all, I think that's a part of their job. And I think that's what Kash and Bongino are doing. They're out there making sure that we correct these wrongs, that this stuff doesn't stay the way it was. And part of that is holding people accountable and setting those examples of people and making a case out of it so that people don't, follow suit. And the other part of it is making sure that you stay on top of it, like whack-a-mole, because that's another part of it that's always going to happen in Washington. So very good point. Thank you, Tony, for the call. I appreciate it. Amigos, we're coming back with the rest of your calls and more. I want to hear from you guys. Anybody that's listening, if you think we need to lock more people up, I want to hear from you. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Again, I know how fresh this is, Gary, but do we know how unusual is a situation like this for feds to arrest a judge?
Well, this is incredibly unusual. This is certainly not something we saw during the Biden administration, not even something we saw during the first Trump administration. But with the increase of importance of immigration as a priority to the Trump administration this time, this is what we have started to see. This is the very first time we've ever seen a judge arrested like this. But seeing these on-camera videos of arrests at courthouses of immigrants that are there to adjudicate their immigration status is certainly new here.
I'm going to say that this guy needs to do a little bit better, Gary Grumbach, NBC News legal affairs reporter. if you're a legal affairs reporter, I'm going to guess you were probably a lawyer, went to law school, something like that. But Gary, let me submit to you that that's not the case at all. Most people, if you have a friend, a family member, anybody that you know that's ever been arrested, I have the good fortune, bad fortune, whatever you want to call it. I got a bunch of friends that have been locked up. And I know. Tell me who you hang with, and I'll tell you who you are. I went to school with a bunch of knuckleheads. And I could tell you that I have a friend who went to jail for doing some illegal farming. And when he got out, they held him on an ICE detainer. He was born in another country, but he is a citizen of the United States. And that was inaccurately inputted in his record or whatever. And when he was released, they said, all right, here's your belongings. You did your time. You're no longer in state prison. You're free to go, but you're on an ICE detainer. So you got to sit in that little holding cell until ICE comes and figures out what they want to do with you. So guess what? He did. He sat there for 6 hours, had to call his lawyer. And then they were like, yeah, no, this guy's got a blue passport. He's an American citizen. He's good to go. And got it cleared up, and he didn't get deported or anything because he didn't live in a different country. But my point is, that is the case. I have two other friends that were arrested, did several years in jail, and when they got out, three other friends, when they got out, one was deported to Nicaragua, one was deported to Colombia, one was deported to Chile. And that is the norm. So for this guy to be in court and then to have his hearing, he's going to be moved somewhere. He's either being moved to county or he's going to be taken by the feds. So it's not unheard of, as Gary Grumbach from NBC News just erroneously said, that seeing federal officials dare to pick up a prisoner. No, that's not unheard of at all. It's also not unheard of for the FBI to arrest public officials that are behaving in a corrupt manner and interfering with an investigation. She did that. So they arrested her. But yet there seems to be such an uproar about this. Well, Pam Bondi, she weighed in on this. And by the way, I'm going to get to your calls. I see we have calls coming in and a couple that are on hold. We're going to get to you momentarily. But AG Pam Bondi doubled down on this and clarified it so that everybody can understand. Listen to this.
When you see these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
Right? It's never Maryland dad. It's never Maryland man. It's never, look, the guy's been here. He came across the border. He's been working in construction, paying for his kid's private school, upstanding citizen, goes to the church, tithing member of the church, helps the community groups. Wife loves him, never filed a complaint against him. It's never that guy. It's never that guy. It's always this guy. It's always the guy with the domestic violence charge. It's always the guy that's, suspected of trafficking. It's always the guy with the gang ties, MS-13, Tren de Aragua, whatever, cartel affiliation. This is who we're going after. And I make this point over and over and over because I know that we're on a bunch of big radio stations and there's Democrats who can't stand me and they hate conservatives, so they listen to this stuff the way I used to listen to NPR, just to stay angry. And I hope they hear this, and I hope they're learning something. And if you disagree with me, give me a call. I'm going to get to your calls right now, straight ahead. Give me the number. I'll give it to you. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. When we come back, we're going to Fairfax, Virginia, checking in with Richard. We got calls from D.C. and more coming in. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Keep up the good work, Rich. You're just doing a great show for people. It's a big national help to have you doing what you're doing.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. Let us check in with Richard, Fairfax, Virginia, WMAL. Go for it.
Hello, Rich. And by the way, my name is Richard also.
All right. Tucayo is what we say in Puerto Rico. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Ricardo. Yes. And I love listening to you. And I wish you could have a little bit longer time when it cuts off at 11 o'clock because then John Batchelor comes on.
Well, let me tell you something about John Batchelor now that we have a chance. John Batchelor is a dear friend of mine. John Batchelor was a mentor of mine, taught me a lot about talk radio. He's a hero to me. I love and adore John Batchelor. I respect the heck out of him. He's a terrific guy. And I consider you blessed and fortunate to be able to listen to John Batchelor. But at the same time, I'm very grateful that you want to hear another hour of my show. So let the people at WMAL know. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, yeah. So, I've been through all 48 states. I'm 65.
Oh, wow. Are you a trucker?
And,
or was that like intentional?
Yes.
Got it.
Trucker.
Cool. Very cool.
And I remember back in the 60s, I wasn't driving, but I remember living in Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, and I remember back in the day, when you could see all the textile plants on, all the lights were working, and they were running 24/7, making all these clothes. I remember the cotton gins in Alabama and stuff where they're producing all this cotton, and now all these places have just gone away because everything went away back in the 60s or whatever. And
well, listen, brother, you know what? I believe Secretary Lutnick, when he says that we're going to use AI and robotics and every other tool that we have to leverage the position of the United States to make manufacturing that much cheaper. And I believe it can be done. I don't know what it looks like, but I know that we're getting closer and closer to it. Richard, thank you for the call, brother. And thanks for what you do, man. Without truckers, we're all screwed. Shout out to WMAL, and thank you for your kind words asking for the coveted third hour of the program. I do appreciate that. Let us go to Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc is in Washington, D.C., also on WMAL, popular city tonight. Jean-Luc, go right ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I'm adding to what Tony was trying to make a point earlier. I think the President of the United States needs to disregard the judges, even the Supreme Court. He has a mandate to the people to accomplish his mission, and every time they're trying to obstruct him. He needs to do exactly what Joe Biden did with the student loan. He did disregard what the Supreme Court justice told him not to do. So Donald Trump needs to do exactly that, what Joe Biden did.
Yeah, well, Jean-Luc, I get what you're saying. And in reality, right, what's happening here is, I think, number one, Donald Trump holds himself to a higher standard. And he refuses to break the rules. He's the type of guy that wants to follow the rules, play by the rules. So I get that. But what I'll say is, Joe Biden, they said, hey, look, you can't forgive student loans. And he said, okay. And he goes back to his drawing board and comes back and says, we're not going to forgive the student loans. We're going to restructure the student loans so that you have to pay back an amount of zero. And that was their way of getting around the Supreme Court. So it wasn't like he actually defied the Supreme Court, even though in the spirit of what he did, he did. But the letter of it made sense. And that's how he was able to get away with that. And I think the Trump people need to be just as clever, figuring out whatever loophole they can use to do what they've got to do. And I think, honestly, so far they have been. The difference is Biden was willing to do anything to get to where he had to be. I think Trump has a higher level of integrity, and he holds himself to a higher standard. Jean-Luc, thank you for your call, brother. I appreciate it. Shout out to WMAL and everybody calling in from there. Amigos, more to come straight ahead. The coveted third hour is coming up right now. I'm Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there. Good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be with you in this greatest country on God's green earth. We're live, we're national, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. This is Open Phones America. I love to talk with you guys. We're going to get to your calls momentarily. I just want to share a few things with you because, of course, we've had some great conversations tonight about the globalists, right? Some retiring, stepping aside, Klaus Schwab. We've had some discussion about what is happening with the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who is now referring her own staff members that she's caught leaking classified information. She's referred them for criminal prosecution to the Department of Justice. You saw Pete Hegseth having some people walked out of the Pentagon recently, similar circumstances. And there are bad people within the government at every angle, at every turn. It just seems to be a normal thing. And I shouldn't say it seems to be. It is a normal thing. Now, perhaps more normal now than it was in the past. Got it, right? But we talk about lawfare a lot, and I think we tend to think that it's somehow new, and it's not new. I think evil is as old as the day is long, and it's been around since day one, right? That's literally the story of the Garden of Eden. And that evil persists in many ways. So we shouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't think that it's above anyone to act corruptly, right? I think it's sometimes surprising, sometimes disappointing. But by and large, it should never shock anyone, in my opinion, that any politician, any stripe, any persuasion, Republican, Democrat, whatever, when you hear something, you might go, oh, I mean, some politicians you know better than others. But at the end of the day, it's the swamp, and that's where they work. Now, I think I am more inclined, after observing politics for the last 20 years, to say that the majority of corruption incidents I've seen have been with Democrats. Democrats seem to institutionalize corruption. They also use their office for their own benefit. It's not about service to the public. It's not about, like some of you who may have been raised Catholic, may have been an altar boy or an altar server, right? Service is about serving others. You go out to eat, someone serves you. They're at your beck and call, not the other way around, right? And the idea of public service is that people are serving the public. It's an act of service. However, when you look at people who get into politics and they are enriched beyond belief because of this work that they're doing, way more than the private sector would ever afford, even the people that work in the bureaucracy, right? People that are working in some of the cabinet agencies, you just look at like, okay, what do you do here? I'm a senior executive in whatever. Okay, so you're the equivalent of a what in the private sector? Of a senior vice president, an associate vice president, a senior director. In real life, you don't have all of these layers of governance in so many places, right? Because they can't afford it. Maybe big companies like Johnson & Johnson and a few others, but most people want to be pretty lean. They want to have a very efficient company because they have, shareholders that they have to report to and say, we're making money here. Unlike the government that doesn't make any money, they take money. Anyway, I said all that to say that we've got this whole thing going, right? This whole thing where bad people exist in the government. And it's my contention that there are some people that solely get into the government to be bad people. Now, a while back, we had an interview where we interviewed a guy, I think Michael Cannell. He used to write for one of the big papers in New York. If I'm not mistaken, it was the Times. And he wrote a book about this mob family, that one of the sons became a cop in the NYPD. Not because he didn't want to be in the family business, precisely because he was in the family business, and his angle of the business was to work inside the police department for the mob. And he did. And he retired from the police department without incident, and he was only found out. He was discovered later after his retirement, and I think they even arrested him and whatnot, is the way that story ends up in Michael Cannell's book. But it was a very eye-opening tale of how the whole thing goes down, and the reality is this is something that actually happens. People really do take jobs to get inside. You know, it's called subterfuge. That's what they do. People want to bring it down from the inside. They want to be the inside man. They want to have the scoop. And we see that all over. We have recent examples with these judges, right? You've got the judge in Wisconsin, Judge Dugan. You've got Judge Cano, which some refer to as Judge Kano. And I think this is pretty interesting stuff here, because these people, you got one that has, well, listen to Pam Bondi real quick. Check this out.
So what charges will Cano and his wife face, if any?
So Judge Cano, soon to be former Judge Cano, got his charges were just unsealed. He's charged with obstruction. He admitted post Miranda. He took one of the TDA members' cell phones himself, took it, beat it with a hammer, destroyed it, and then walked the pieces to a city dumpster to dispose of it to protect him. The wife also is charged with destroying evidence. Sandra, not only that, this TDA member, and he had on a necklace that said kill, something about death. He had tattoos all over him. He also had on his cell phone pictures of two decapitated victims, decapitated, gruesome photos, and he was sending them out, and whoever he was sending them to was sending back saying, hey, you need to be careful, you shouldn't be sending these, you shouldn't be texting these photos out. Not only that, these two, the judge and his wife, gave him assault rifles that belonged to their daughter. That's what they're charged with. In the criminal report affidavit, he goes to a shooting range with these assault rifles, with a suppressor, with other known TDA members, and they're shooting. This is the last person that we want in our country, nor will we ever tolerate a judge or anyone else harboring them.
Harboring a criminal that has terrorist ties. Tren de Aragua has been put on that terror list, or I believe they're now considered a foreign terrorist organization. I don't know what an assault rifle is, Madam Attorney General, but I'm going to let that slide. But I do know that destroying a cell phone when you're a judge sounds like destroying evidence, especially when this judge used to be a cop, Judge Cano. So you've got Judge Cano that's in bed with these guys, and you see more and more pictures of him posing with the guys, posing with the guns, going on these shooting excursions. And again, shooting's great. I like shooting. It's very nice. It's beautiful. Terrific. It's great. Right? Little Trump there for you. But ultimately, it seems to me, if this guy was a cop and he's doing all this, he's not some sort of missionary to the cartel. My inclination here is to believe that he was always working for the cartels or for the criminals. He was their inside man, and they said, now that you're retired, you should go to law school and make yourself become a magistrate judge. Get in the federal system. And he's there, right? The other day they locked up an NYPD cop. Who was he? He was a spy for China. These things really happen. In the last 2 days, we've had 2 judges that were arrested for helping criminal illegal aliens. Is that coincidence? Or is that us starting to see part of the problem that exists? Right? Because there's a problem. Lawfare is real. It happens, and it's an actual thing. So I'm going to get your thoughts on this before we hit the break. Let me see here. Let us go to Jim, Leonia, Tennessee, WDXE. Jim, go right ahead.
Yes, I'm encouraged because of what has happened with these judges. And I was just, after hearing what Pam Bondi said, I'm more encouraged because these guys don't seem to fear anything. They are so confident in what they're doing. But it looks to me like that they may be caught and they may have to pay some consequences. And after what she said, maybe this will be a difference in the situation and maybe something will be done. I just wonder what your comments are about that.
Well, Jim, I think you're right. I'll say this, and forgive me if it's crass, but I'm going to say it takes balls to be a stick-up kid, right? I don't know if you or me possess the genetic gall to go and put a gun up to somebody and say, run your pockets, give me your chain, give me your watch. I don't have the guts to do that. I would never do that to somebody. But there are people that do that for a living. They do it all the time. So I would say there are people that aren't afraid to break the law. There are people that aren't afraid. They don't care about the consequences. They don't care what you're going to do to them because they believe they're going to get away with it all the time. And the only way you fight that attitude, or at least the production, the creation of more people like that, is to have more Pam Bondis out there saying, the buck stops here. Or as my mom and dad would say, hasta aquí llegamos. This is it. Last stop. We're not going past this. This game ends here. Right? You have to take the bull by the horns. My dad always told me in Spanish, it's a saying that says, you kill the dog, and then it's not rabbit anymore. Mata al perro y se acaba la rabia. And I believe that to be true in many situations, especially when you're dealing with rabid dogs. So, yes, we have to hold people accountable when we can. And in this case, we were able to. These people are not going to be immune because there's no judge that is immune from destroying evidence, breaking a cell phone with a hammer. That's never part of a judge's duties, right? In Congress, they have all sorts of immunity for things that they say, things that they do. And this is why it's so hard to get those guys, the government people, the bureaucrats. But when you have a sitting judge telling the federal officials, oh, yeah, you got to go down the hall and see the chief judge. And then when they turn around, go and take the prisoner out the back door. Good thing she got locked up, too. Judges need a wake-up call. You can't keep playing these games. You can't keep playing the games. And we need the Attorney General out there on as many TV shows and radio shows as she can be on, letting everybody know, hasta aquí llegamos. The buck stops here. Thanks, brother, for the call. I appreciate it. Jim in Leonia, Tennessee, I appreciate that you're encouraged. I am, too. WDXC is in the building. Folks, we're coming right back. We're going to have a discussion about, remember that case about the lawfare and all the crazy stuff that went on? Varsity Blues? Well, we're going to talk about that straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All of our friends are only talking about one thing, and it's this story.
An FBI investigation called Operation Varsity Blues.
USC, UCLA,
and Rick Singer,
the mastermind behind the entire operation.
Is there any risk that this thing blows up in my face?
Hey, Rick.
Hey there.
Is this a good time?
Yeah, it's good for me.
Rick, I had a question for you.
It's just you and me. Is that kosher?
Absolutely.
I just wanted you to walk me through the whole thing again and how it works.
We help the wealthiest families in the U.S. get their kids into school. So I've done 761 what I would call side doors. The front door means getting in on your own. So I've created this kind of side door in because my families want a guarantee.
There aren't many federal cases where you have 50 people indicted for a crime. It truly is amazing what people will say on the phone when they don't know the feds are listening.
That is a clip from a Netflix series that describes, in their opinion, what happened in the Varsity Blues scandal. Now, you might remember that was where the federal government, the United States Attorney's Office, went after several prominent and affluent parents for what I think they alleged was bribery of different admissions processes and related people to get their kids into the school of their choice. And I got to tell you, I didn't follow the story that much because it just, wasn't inside my wheelhouse. But I just remembered being outraged at Aunt Becky from Full House being the person that was implicated here and thinking, would I do that for my kid? I don't know. I think I do a lot of things for my kid, including bribing. But I don't know if it would be bribing to get her into a school. I think if your kid can't get in on their own merits, they probably don't belong there. And it's going to be, not the first of many, many bribes, right? You're going to have to pay to get her through a reclass. And I don't know if that was something I wanted to do. But I don't have all the facts. But we have a guest that's going to give us his version of events. John Wilson is the author of this book, Varsity Blues, The Scandal Within the Scandal. And he alleges that there was exactly what we've been talking about, lawfare and the weaponization of the federal justice system against his clients. And he's got a whole story to tell. John Wilson, former president of Staples International and former CFO and COO of The Gap, former senior operating partner at McKinsey & Company. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Rich. Good to be here.
Help me understand. I know that there's a lot of moving parts here, and we're about to hit a break, so we'll carry it over until the next segment. But I guess the most succinct way you can, what is the scandal within the scandal?
Well, at its core, the Varsity Blues case was about famous and wealthy parents, Hollywood celebrities, bribing, paying people to cheat on their kids' tests, and putting fake profiles together to get their unqualified kids into colleges. I didn't do any of those things, and yet I got swept up in this case, really to help the Boston prosecutors justify bringing all those trials from California to Boston to help boost their careers. They knew this would be a famous case. They knew it would get publicity because of the Hollywood celebrities involved. And yet of Singer's 3,000 parent clients, only one lived in Massachusetts. That was me. And so they needed to charge me to be the hook to bring all of these trials to Boston and to bring the media cameras with that could help boost their careers. They had mountains of evidence that I was innocent, but it didn't matter because they needed me to help bring the jurisdiction and the media spotlights for their careers to Boston. And that really is a scandal here. We didn't do any of those things. My children were all qualified on their own merits. My daughter's got a perfect score on the ACT test and a 99 percentile. They were twins. My son played on the USC team, and he was playing for national championship teams throughout high school, year-round, Stanford club teams. And he joined the team and played on the team. And so we didn't do any of those things. Our money went to the school. We got a receipt from USC for our donations, and they gave us the receipt, and they kept our money to this day. So we were unlike those other parents, but we got swept up.
John Wilson, thanks for sharing that. We're going to get into the story in the book right now and exactly what you had to go through. It seems like you went through a lot to clear your family's name. You claim you were falsely accused of a crime, and your adversary was the federal government and Netflix. So, as well as a prestigious university. A lot to discuss. Folks, we're coming right back with John Wilson. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
The parents charged today, despite already being able to give their children every legitimate advantage in the college admissions game, instead chose to corrupt and illegally manipulate the system for their benefit.
That is file tape of the United States Attorney Andrew Lelling for the District of Massachusetts reading the indictment back when that happened. And with us We have our guest. I just want to remind everybody, we're going to be getting to your calls momentarily. But first, our guest. And this is, again, a fascinating story, right? The president of Staples, John Wilson, and he gets swept up into this Varsity Blues scandal. He's got a book about it now, Varsity Blues, the scandal within the scandal. John Wilson, welcome back, and let's pick up where you had left off. So your kids had the pedigree to get what they deserved, yet you were still swept into this. Why? Because you were president of Staples and a notable executive?
No, because I was the only one of 3,000 clients from Rick Singer, the mastermind in this, who lived in Massachusetts. And the Boston prosecutors wanted to bring all of the trials to Massachusetts to help their own careers. So they weaponized the justice system against me. All the trials should have taken place in California for this case. The Hollywood celebrities, Rick Singer, the schools, USC, UCLA, they were all in California. They needed at least one person in Massachusetts as the hook to justify bringing all the trials to Boston. And I was that hook.
Wow. Now, how did you fight back against this? Obviously, there's a whole movie that they made about it. There was endless media coverage. How did you begin to mount your defense?
Well, it's been a brutal experience for 5 years. And what the prosecutors did here was just outrageous. Not only did they falsely charge me, but they piled on charges, more charges against me than anyone else in this case, 4 separate superseding indictments. They charged me with 180 years of prison time, and they kept saying they're going to do even more. Until I said, look, it doesn't matter how many times you charge me. I'm not going to plead guilty. I didn't do anything here. They wanted me to plead guilty to avoid having to go to trial and avoid letting the truth get out there.
But if you pled guilty, were you going to walk away with a really good deal?
Yeah, you'd have a really good deal. But I said, I'm not going to plead. We thought about this long and hard. We could have saved millions of dollars in legal fees, and we could have easily moved on with our lives, right? But for 3 reasons, we didn't want to do that. I couldn't do that. One, it would really indict my children, because the reason they said that parents are doing this because they had unqualified kids. And if I falsely confessed to a crime I didn't commit, it would reinforce that false narrative that my children weren't qualified, and they were. And I couldn't leave them with that permanent stain. 2, it's not in my DNA to confess to something I didn't do. And 3, what the government did was wrong, and we want to fight it to not only protect ourselves, but to help make sure this doesn't happen to any other families. This is just wrong.
So, for everybody who's listening, folks, we're on with John Wilson. He's the author of the book Varsity Blues, The Scandal Within the Scandal. And as he's laying it out, he was the only one of the people that was indicted that lived in Massachusetts. He is the former president of Staples, and as well as operating partner at McKinsey & Company and COO of The Gap. And what I find really interesting here is, I get it. You had the means and the wherewithal to do it, and I would do it for my kids too if I had to, leverage the rest of their future. Quite frankly, I would do it just because I wouldn't want them to live with that shadow. So I get that as a parent. But what I guess, where is it today? How did it end up? Where are you at?
Well, it's been a 5-year nightmare for all of us. And we're still continuing to fight to clear our names. What happened at the trial, they railroaded us through a trial. They first were able to shop for a judge who's the oldest judge sitting in America today, that's full-time at the federal level, 86 years old, who was very, very supportive of them. He ruled against our evidence 98.3% of the time. So they ran us through a trial. They railroaded us where we were convicted on every charge. They blocked all of our evidence. I only got 1.7%. And this wasn't irrelevant evidence. So, for example, my daughter's perfect ACT test scores and 99% weren't allowed into the jury. In a trial about college admissions, the jury couldn't see that. My son's certified swim time, even his high school water polo coach couldn't bring that in. It proved he was one of the fastest water polo players in the entire United States and one of the fastest on the USC team. That couldn't be brought in. We had 100 examples of USC giving donor families a boost in admissions, and that couldn't be brought in. Even my own will, I was giving substantial amounts of money 10 years before I met Singer to Harvard and other colleges. That couldn't be brought into my own trial. So they blocked all of our evidence, and they smeared us with other people's bad acts. what these other parents did was wrong, and I would be outraged as a parent too. If people were bumping my more qualified children by cheating on tests and bribing coaches and creating fake profiles, I would be outraged. I didn't do any of that. It's hard to be more qualified than a perfect score. To put that in perspective, my daughter's perfect scores, only less than 5,000 kids out of 1.8 million get a perfect score on the ACT. So they were very qualified. And my son played on national teams. My son had a world record in swimming. They wouldn't let that into the trial. And he played on the team. And so what the colleges told us, we followed the rules. We went to USC. They said, if you make a donation, you'll get a tiebreaker boost for a highly qualified kid. We did. We made a donation. We met with the school. They gave us a receipt. We just followed their rules, and they kept our money to this day. We didn't do those things that the other people did. We didn't cheat. We didn't bribe. We didn't do any of that. But we were swept up in this because we were the venue hook that the prosecutors in Boston needed to justify bringing all of the trials from the celebrities and so forth in California to Boston.
I'm guessing your kids are now done with school or close to it.
My son completed school. My son graduated. My daughters were only 16 when this happened. So my twin daughters were just 16 in high school when this happened. You can imagine how devastating this would be. You work hard, you study hard, you get a perfect score on your test, and the government smears you falsely as being unqualified. Right? So they were devastated by this. They're still in college, but it's been a devastating, 5.5, 6-year journey.
What is the next step for you, John?
We're still continuing to fight, and we put 2 lawsuits out there against Netflix for defamation and against USC for defrauding us. Each of those is moving along quite nicely. Against Netflix, one of the things they did, which was outrageous here, is they produced a film. They called it a documentary. It was not. That included 10 parents who confessed. And then they included me in it as well. And they knew at the time that I pleaded not guilty. They pre-announced the movie.
Did you sit for an interview with them, or they used like file tape of you?
They used just tape. They had recorded tapes. But what they did is they took sound bites out of context and then juxtaposed them with other people. And so, again, there was nothing. I never said anything that was incriminating during the calls. They take sound bites. Like I agreed on one sound bite to give a check to the coach. But it was a check made out to USC, and I got a receipt for it. So what they did is they played 30 other parents saying, we're going to bribe the coach, we're going to bribe the coach, we're going to bribe the coach. And then my recording is the FBI set up Singer this way because they knew they couldn't get me to bribe. They said, are you okay if we give a check to the coach? I said, yes. You always give the check to somebody. You don't just throw the check in the pool for water polo. You give the check to the coach. It was made out to USC. But it sounds like on the movie like we were bribing people. And they did that kind of thing over and over in the movie. They just took my sound bites out of context and then just smeared me through guilt by association with other parents' bad acts. And so we're fighting them because we warned them in advance. We gave them a 550-page warning letter before the movie came out with all of our exculpatory
facts. Good for you.
So they had that, but they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything with it.
But you know what? I have a friend, something very similar. He sat with Comedy Central, did an interview, and gave them preconditions as well and said, look, I'm going to agree to this thing. I know that you're here to take me out of context in a joking way, but it can't be grossly exaggerated. And they did. Actually, what they did was they used footage of him in the interview telling an off-color joke that was not supposed to, he asked, are the cameras still rolling? We're done, right? And they said, yeah, we're done. And that's what they ended up using, what he thought was off camera. And he was able to sue them, and he won. And they had to, make their amends. So hopefully the stuff you put in writing was pretty ironclad. And
it was very strong. And we won our first motion. So the big hurdle within these defamation lawsuits against the media companies is the motion to dismiss. They filed a motion to dismiss, and we won. We beat them in court here in Superior Court in Massachusetts. So now we're in discovery. It's been almost 9 months of discovery, and it's probably going to be another year or two. They'll drag it out. I've been depleted financially. This thing has cost me my entire life savings and all my retirement funds. It's destroyed our family financially and emotionally, but we're still fighting. We've got a law firm working on a contingency basis, and it's going to be another 2-year battle against Netflix. But what they did was horrific. They poisoned the jury pool 5 months before my trial even happened, and they have an audience of 280 million subscribers and 500 million viewers in 190 countries. So it was a massive audience. They played this movie to tens of millions of people. And even when the jurists in my trial saw the movie, and it's a very prejudicial movie, and the judge wouldn't let us exclude, that very favorable judge wouldn't let us exclude that juror from the jury, even though they had been poisoned by the Netflix movie. They said they can keep an open mind, but when you see that movie, it portrays me as being as bad or worse than all the other parents, not for anything I said, but they showed my image and the actor playing me and my words 25 times in the first 23 minutes. And so I was there every other minute, just literally being compared to other parents. Again, I didn't say any of those things. My kids didn't cheat. We didn't put any false information into any profile. My son joined the team, et cetera. All my money went to the school, and I got receipts. But they had other parents who were bribing, who were cheating, and doing all of these things. And so they just railroaded us through that process.
John Wilson, let everybody listening know how they can get a copy of the book and learn more about it.
Well, I think they'll be shocked to read. There's about 50 examples of government overreach and just outstanding or outrageous behavior. You can get the book on Amazon.com or any online book or retailer. It just started being available this week. It's already a bestseller on Amazon, which is great. And all the proceeds of the book are going to 3 charities. None of it's going to me. This is not about making money. This is all about getting the truth out there and clearing my children's names. And so all the proceeds are going to go to a water polo charity. They're going to go to Autism Cause, which I've been a member of the Board of Autism Speaks for 15 years. And it's going to go to a criminal defense fund that will help fund people who have been falsely accused. So it's all for a good cause, and it's about getting our story out there.
Well, Godspeed to you, John Wilson. I'm sorry you're going through all that, and I wish you the best of luck. And thanks for joining us. Hope to have you back on soon with an update.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. And amigos, your calls are coming up right now. Albany, Wilmington, Burlington, Charleston, South Carolina, Salem, Arkansas, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
You know, I'm not a Republican, but I listen to you because you speak moderately and reasonably and softly and decently, and I really appreciate that.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, it's me, Rich Valdez, keeping you company for a little bit longer. Let us go to the phones. Brenda, Albany, New York, WGDJ. Go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. I wanted to make a comment regarding the judge who smashed the phone, right?
Yes.
I feel like the reason they did it is because Hillary Clinton did it and there were no repercussions. She got away with it.
Right.
So the judge must feel like there is a reason or a way that they will be saved from any kind of prosecution and they won't be held accountable, because otherwise, why would you as a sitting judge commit such a crime? You know, it's so obvious, but because Hillary got away with it, and I suspect the same thing with Hunter Biden, we're bound to see it with either another prominent family or another judge doing the exact same thing because they know there's no consequences.
Yeah, you know, I think it's a very good point that you make, Brenda. And I believe that criminals do what criminals do because there's an ulterior motive, right? I think the judge is admitting this because he used to be a cop. And before he was a judge, he was in law enforcement. And I think if you don't know this, I'm going to teach you something. That my brother was a Fed and had some friends that were Feds. And they always said the same thing. Number one, never talk to the Feds without your lawyer. Number two, when the Feds ask you a question, they already know the answer. So if the Feds say, hey, did you ever see so-and-so's cell phone? You ever touch it, deal with it? They already know what's going on. They probably have video. So I would suspect that when they asked him the question, he was like, I'm cooked over here. Yes, I did it. Here's the truth. I want to make a deal, right? Because he's not an idiot. He's a judge, and he knows how the system works. So, but you're right. Why did he do it? Because it was a means to an end of trying to protect this person that he was trying to smuggle and harbor in his house. The bigger question is why. I don't know his motive there, and I would love to. Brenda in Albany, New York, thank you for the call, WGDJ. Let us do another one as we push it to the limit. Let us go here. Where do we go? Jerome, Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA, one of our favorite disagreeers. Jerome, go right ahead.
Take it to the limit one more time. Hey, January 6th was a day of love. Just remember that, Rich Valdez.
Is that like the summer of love of George Floyd?
Yeah, right. Yeah, George Floyd. That was love. That wasn't murder. That was love, Rich.
The summer of love.
Him, yes, and Mr. Floyd was begging for his life. He killed him because he loved him. Yeah. And by the way, tell Trump, I dare you to give that little Homo sapien George Santos a pardon, okay?
I doubt that's going to happen, but I would love to talk with George Santos, but he's been dodging me. He's ducking me. He doesn't want to come on the show. George Santos, if you're listening, come on the show. Tell your side of the story. Jerome, thanks for the call, brother. I got to hit a pause right here. We'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back to the phones. We go. Let us see. We're going to Joe, Salem, Arkansas, KSAR. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. That was quite a story on that female judge escorting a criminal defendant out the door and letting him go.
The back door, the juror entrance.
Juror entrance. Being a pro se litigant for 50 years, I've retired now, but I had ex parte hearings. They tried it on me many times because they couldn't address the arguments I made many times. So let's go in the back, and they never invited me. So I followed the judge and the defendant and their attorney. And I demanded, we were off the record, of course, but you can go back on record when you go back out and then put on the record what was discussed as far as strategy. No, that's ex parte hearings, and that's denying you a certain amount of discovery there. I cannot believe God is exposing these judges. I mean, the tables are being turned now. And, I thank Bondi and Cash for what they're. I now see that they're for the real deal, don't you think?
Oh yeah, 100% the real deal. Look, I knew they were. These are solid people. When Pam Bondi was representing President Trump in his impeachment as one of his attorneys there, she did a fantastic job. She was very solid in Florida, and he's got the right team going. He just got to keep managing it and keep fighting. It's a lot. It's a lot of whack-a-mole. Joe, KSAR, thank you, brother. Ralph, Burlington, Vermont, with seconds to go. Quickly, what say you?
I've got to say that when they started not teaching cursive writing, it ended up where...
Yep, we ended up losing so much. Cursive was just the beginning of the end. Ralph, thank you for the call. Shout out to WVMT. Hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.